We started off with no crowd.
Right.
It was just the cameraman. So it was dead silent. I mean, you can hear the thump of the mat when you fell. You can hear the chops. You can hear the kicks.
Yeah.
It was just crazy.
Don't you know that the music should be solemn?
This is Theo Rossi. This is Theory. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Hey, everybody. What's the word out there? Today on the show, I sit down with one of the icons of wrestling, Rey Mysterio of pro wrestling, currently in the WWE. I've known Rey for a little while now, probably one of my favorite people, just the real deal and a game changer. There's very few people who come onto this planet and entirely change the way things are done in the business or the profession that they're in. And Rey is one of them. So I've been wanting to talk to him for a while about life, about family, about everything. So without further ado, let's go sit down with my fellow human. I really enjoyed this one. My man, Rey Mysterio. Yeah, man, it's been a minute. We haven't seen each other. Well, we used to see each other at the Comic-Cons all the time.
Yeah.
Which, who knows if that's...
Did you do any more of those after we saw each other last time?
Yeah, I do them. I was doing them. I always tried to do 5 a year. That was my thing. Like, I was like, I'm going to try to do 5 with my schedule, 1 overseas, 4 in the States.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows, like, what's the future of those for anything?
Yeah.
But that's where we saw each other, a couple of years back where we met. We recorded a video together. We did a bunch of stuff. And I think what's so crazy about those, not just is it so amazing for the fans, because you and I are around the same age. When you think about it, imagine when we were young, like being able to
meet our greats. Yes. Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's so many actors that I grew up watching and even Mexican singers that I wish I would have just had the chance to have met them back in the day. Now with the career that has taken off, I'm like, maybe one day I get to run into one of my favorite singers that I grew up listening to,
And that's what those Comic-Cons, all those different things did for me, because again, I'm like this, not just a history freak, not just about like politics and history and war and all that, but like about pop culture. So I'd be in those and I'd be walking around for a minute. I'd be like, oh man, that's that person from that movie.
Yes.
And then I'd go meet them like a fan. I'd freak out.
Yeah. It's crazy, huh?
Yeah. I don't know when those will ever be. I mean, I've been to ones that are like 70,000 people or whatever. Same with you, right?
Yeah. The last one I did was actually right before the pandemic hit. And, that's when they started to shut things down. I was actually in Vegas with Gilbert.
Wow. Yeah, I love Gilbert.
It was one of his last ones that he had going on. And he had the weekend scheduled. I came in for Saturday, and I guess he had another one the following day. But that Saturday afternoon, they shut down the MGM. Yep. They shut down the Bellagio and another hotel. And we were like, man, what's going on here? Like, we really...
Is that like early March?
This was early March, yeah.
Yeah,
early March. Like, it didn't really sink in how catastrophic this was going to be and how it was going to affect everything pretty much.
And then did you, because my family and I, pretty similar scenario. Like, I'll never forget, we took the boys, I got the 2 young boys, we took them to see a movie like March 10th, and then it was over, right? That we were done. Right. There was no one in the theater. By March 11th, we were on full lockdown. When did you actually stop wrestling in front of crowds and stuff?
So right in the month of March. So WrestleMania was right around the corner. It was that first Sunday of April, and it was scheduled to go down in Tampa, Florida. Mm-hmm. The training facility, the Performance Center, is in Orlando. So what they did was they were still trying to put on the event. Yeah, well, they're trying to put on the event. I guess there was some connection with Vince McMahon and the governor of Florida to make something happen. But once everything started shutting down, which was mid-March, and then you saw a chain reaction, more
Just
more
fast.
venues. Yeah, it was very fast, very fast. So at that point, they said, you know what? We're going to make the announcement. I remember being at the Performance Center doing one of our Raw shows when that same afternoon they came in the locker room. They said they just canceled WrestleMania.
Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy.
First time ever. First time since Mr. T and Hogan. First time.
Yes. First time ever. And so we were like, well, what's going to happen? We already started talking. Well, I don't think they'll do it without fans, would they? Like, we were starting to say, I think it's better if they just cancel it and wait till this dies down,
right.
So we can have our atmosphere. But obviously it didn't happen. And then the next thing you know, they announced it, that it was going to happen at the Performance Center. Is that me or is that you?
I think that's you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all good. It's all good. That's what we do here. But when you talk about atmosphere, right? Like, that's something that's so interesting to me because, like you and I are crazy mixed martial arts fans. We watch everything UFC, we watch Bellator, whatever. And it's so interesting to me watching these because it's actually doing, like, I'm okay with it when I watch these events. Like, I watched the Masvidal fight, the Darren Till fight. Like, I'm okay. I love what he's done on Fight Island. I think it's super cool.
Right.
Some things aren't that cool like that. Like, the crowd almost needs to be. I've seen people do like stand-up comedy on Instagram and I'm like, it's not working. They need the crowd, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel like with professional wrestling? Is it because the crowd is such a huge part of it?
That's our atmosphere, man. Without the crowd, it's like, even when we have shows, like my first matches back at the age of 14, 15 years old, wrestling in front of 100 people, to me, that was like, damn, this is cool. I'm wrestling in front of a crowd. Yeah. And then as you move on and then you go to bigger venues and you see the venues that are packed, there's times where you run into a venue and it's a big venue, but they didn't sell that many tickets. And you kind of feel down because you don't have that atmosphere. It was hard for me to adjust. I was actually one of the first matches that happened on Raw where we didn't have a crowd.
Did it feel like you were going back to those early days, like you were saying, where it was like you were wrestling? Because again, as a kid, my fanness with wrestling is very strange. I was, again, you and I are right around the same age, so I was obsessed at a young age. Junkyard Dog, Hogan, like when that all came on, it was like those were my superheroes, right? Like I was like, I followed it. Then I kind of stopped. Then I went back during the Attitude Era, WCW, all that, right? WWE, the whole
wars,
thing, the wars, up until probably around like 2000. Mm-hmm. Then I started kind of acting a lot more and then kind of fell off and always check in here and there. When something pops, like when ECW was popping and then another thing comes back or the Hardy Boys came back or you came back to WWE, like I'd check in. Mm-hmm. When you go back to those times, I used to watch guys, we'd go to local high school and like King Kong Bundy would come and wrestle or they do like local shows, even though they were in WWF at the time with, WWE now. Did it feel like wrestling with like no crowd? It's never been like that. Like you said, 100 people, but I guess you still have like 100 people with all the techs and the camera guys, and there's still some people there, right?
At the facility, at the Performance Center, where we shoot our TVs now, that we started off with no crowd.
Right.
It was just the cameraman. So it was dead silent. I mean, you can hear the thump of the mat when you fell. You can hear the chops. You can hear the kicks. Yeah. It was just crazy. It almost felt like, and I've never done any auditions for movies on movie set, but it's silent. So it felt like we were auditioning for a wrestling role. That's how it felt.
Crazy.
Yes. That's how it felt. Very hard to adjust, man. The one thing is, and we talked about this recently, that, when you're on live TV and in front of a live audience, you're going like, there's no chance for error. You miss something, you got to improvise right away. Here, there's a sense that, hey, if you mess something up, you can always stop recording and continue. But
because they're not live, they're pre-recorded.
They're pre-taped. But again, I don't think anyone has done that yet till this day. We go in there, we wing it, and we try to put the show on Whether it's a 5 or 10 minute match, we go all out in those 10 minutes. Although when we do have a commercial break, they stop it. And then if you want to take a water break or catch some air, whatever,
right.
you can take up to 3 minutes. That's when you record live. Because like I said, I was one of the first to record live, and we were still doing live TV. We were going 4 minutes. Okay, we're going to commercial in 3, 2, 1. Okay, stop recording. So we'd have to wait that 3 minute mark in order to come back live.
Right. But even when you're recording live, like, and I've been to tons and tons of live events, when you're recording live, like, I think the last one I was at was like SummerSlam, and you're recording live, like, even when you know they're going to commercial, things still have to stay kind of, everything's still in character, everything's still going because the crowd's there and they're super into it.
Yes,
so
100%.
You know what I mean? So even though it's on a break, it's kind of not on a break for the people that are in the stadium.
Yes. Yeah. For the people, for the live audience, when you go on break and you're out of TV time, so you have those 3 minutes to fill in with time to entertain the fans that are there.
Yep.
And then they'll give you a countdown. Okay, we're getting ready to come back from commercial. 3, 2, 1. Now, sometimes they've been doing a lot of the picture-in-picture where you go to break, but there's still a little square at the top of your TV where you can still see the action going while they're in commercial break.
While they're in commercial, and you can still see those. I have. Yeah. And I think it's, for me, what's so crazy is like, there are certain things like when, again, especially at the height of the Attitude Era, especially even what I see now, the crowd, just like, you know, if you're doing theater, right? But again, in theater, they don't speak to you. The crowd is speaking to you literally as you're doing it. So you're getting, I've seen guys, their mic skills or like how they're on the mic, like it changes to what the crowd's saying. They're improvising as they're going. And then even like I've seen, especially, you know, sometimes with you and like certain wrestling that's happening at a fast pace is almost going faster as the crowd's getting more into it.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. Yes. You know who was good at that? Eddie. Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah.
And I learned so much from him because we would have our match set up. We would go out there, and even though we had our structure to the match, if the fans weren't reacting to what we were doing, he would change it on the fly.
Right away.
So based on what you just said now, you know, you vibe off of the fans. If the fans aren't having that reaction that you're expecting, okay, now we're going to change it, and we're going to tweak it, and we're going to do this, and we're going to find a way on how to get them hooked. You know, no matter what we do, we're gonna flip the script on them.
And some people, like for some people, Eddie's a great example of going into the history of it. Some people I've always seen, there's, you know, really great technical wrestlers. There were really great guys on the mic, right? And then there's guys who can do both. And then there's certain things. What I've always found so amazing about you, and I know you know this because, again, as someone who's been there from the beginning, again, we're the same age, and I'm talking even way before that, NWA, Nick Bockwinkel days and all that stuff back in the day, Dusty Rhodes and all that. The guys used to be so much bigger. So when you came in, you had to be so innovative in everything you were doing. Like all your stuff was so innovative because you were so much smaller than the guys. You're, you know, technically cruiserweight against these giants. Now it almost seems like how, we don't want the big bulky bodybuilders. Everybody is faster and whatever. And everything you created, watching you come up, they're all using, not to say like whatever. It's like your stuff has become almost like when Jake the Snake did the DDT for the first time, nobody had done it. And now everybody does the DDT throughout the matches.
Different versions of it. Yes.
Different versions. And your stuff is now there's so many different versions of the stuff you had to do to kind of like throw the game up to the top, right? Because of your being, and now you're seeing all these guys who are main eventers who are also all in the, but who are all kind of like 5'10", 190, 5'8", you know, they're not these giant Kevin Nash types or the big guys, you know, whatever. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's crazy, real crazy. It's crazy because I remember Conan had a big impact on my career in general. Like I've known Conan since the age of 11. My uncle trained him and he became a big star. And then he kind of opened the doors up for me. You know, he just saw so much potential within me. So he brought me to Mexico. That's when I started off my career. Then he brought me into ECW. And then he opened the doors in WCW, and after that we kind of parted ways, and I went into WWE, and he came back to Mexico. But Conan, while in the WCW era, he said, Ray, he goes, bro, this is going to change one day. The shit that you're doing now, he goes, there's going to come a time where the fans aren't going to want to see the big dudes, like the muscle bodies. He goes, they're going to want to see the shit you're doing, high flying, the lucha libre style. And, at the time I was too young. I was naive. I was just happy that I was getting opportunities. But even crazier, the fact that I've always been a small guy. And in Mexico, the wrestlers aren't that much bigger than in the U.S., but they still have some size on them, But for me, being a kid and being skinny and petite, my build didn't really come through until probably the age of 21. Like that's when I started to bulk up a little bit. But I never changed my style in order to adapt to the American style of wrestling. Like the stuff that I was doing then and now is always been the same style of wrestling that I've been gifted to do, that I trained to do, and throughout the years, I learned how to create stories and make and get the fans interested in a match versus a David and Goliath, Khali, Rey Mysterio, Khali, Kevin Nash. But I've been truly blessed to have had the opportunity to have been put in the ring with these guys that had the knowledge and the passion to help me out, because they could have said, you know what? Nah, you're not putting me with this kid. Come on. So, I earned that respect from these guys, like the Nashes, like the Halls, like the Takers, the Big Shows that, just kind of paved a new way for smaller wrestlers like me.
Yeah. And you just said it so right, because it's almost like built in our, in our cerebral cortex that we love the David versus Goliath thing, right? We like to see that. And then I think you learned all that from your uncle, right? Your uncle was the original Rey Mysterio. Like he taught you, and did he learn it from someone, or did he create a lot of that style on his own?
Well, what my uncle did is he taught me how to wrestle. Once I picked up the first steps of wrestling, and I knew how to tumble, and I knew how to hit the ropes, and I knew how to do certain things. Throughout my growth in this business, I kind of developed my own style based off of wrestlers that I grew up watching. Tiger Mask, Super Astro, who's a wrestler from Mexico City that's probably 5'2", stocky, like Mighty Mouse, stocky. And his moves were just, finesse, like gracefully. Every time he'd jump off the ropes, he would arch. And if you you got to look this guy up.
Yeah.
Super Astro. And he was one of my idols. My uncle, my uncle was a heavy wrestler. He was probably in the 220s, so the style I really didn't pick up from him, because he was his was more powerful wrestling, and he would do the topes through the middle rope to the floor and planchas. But,
which is not commonplace,
yes,
everywhere like that. And that was I never saw that till you did it.
Yeah. So I kind of just developed my own style by picking up from wrestlers that I grew up watching.
So that's to me, again, growing up at that certain time, the only person I haven't seen jump off the top rope was Snuka, right? That was the only person. And then Jimmy,
and
Jimmy
did it awesome.
Yeah, he did it awesome. And he jumped off Andre's shoulders, and it was that was high flying, right? And then Macho Man was doing the deep elbow. Almost felt like he covered half the ring when he would do it. And again, these are bigger guys, right?
Right.
And then what really changed for me was when a lot of, and I think it was in WWE, was the table ladder chairs matches and stuff in ECW, and people would, be doing moonsaults off the top of the ladders and stuff. And you were like, wow. And even Mankind played a part in that, Mick, when he got thrown off, because just that flying of that thing that people were seeing, that fast pace. And that's when it really started to all meld. And I think that now looking back, it's almost like looking back at black and white TVs or, having 5 channels or not having like downloadable episodes. It's like when you look back at like the leg drop or certain moves that were finishers and that we would go nuts over.
Yeah.
Now you're just kind of like, okay. Like,
yeah.
you go, oh.
Yeah.
But back then, it was the greatest thing in the world.
Yes.
It was the shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll never forget, speaking of Comic-Cons, we were at a Comic-Con and I met Greg the Hammer Valentine, and I was like, wow. and again, that was like, I grew up watching. He was the biggest heel in the business.
And his face was always serious, huh? Like,
so
never smiled.
Mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always in character and so great. And he would just drop an elbow on the guy and put him in a figure 4 leg lock, and he was the baddest man on the planet.
Yeah.
Now that's like, that would be nothing. That's a starter. That's a beginning of something. So it's so crazy to me. Again, it almost seems like how do they keep going more and more and more risky to keep that pace up when the crowd expects like that?
High
just
pace,
keeps
right?
moving. High pace.
Yeah. It's I mean, we knew just like anything else that eventually the evolution of wrestling was going to come in through, but I never thought it would get this crazy to this point. Like I knew I had a big impact on most of these guys that are now in WWE, like the Ricochets, like Apollo Crews,
Finn Balor.
Yes. Yeah. All these guys, but like the stuff that I see now, it even blows my mind. Like, Jesus, how is that even possible? Like that is literally defying gravity, and it's crazy too. Cause, my son is in training right now. He's 23 years old. He's ready to break in. So he sees like the new, evolution of wrestling, and he sees the old and the one that I was in, and he likes more of the storytelling. He's very agile for his size. He's 6'2".
I know he's a big guy.
He's about 195, and he does stuff that I would never thought of doing, and that I can't do till this day. I don't think if I didn't do them when I was younger, it was because I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. And he's knocking them off like a piece of cake. So, but he's more the guy that loves the storytelling, still getting the flash.
That's what I love.
I love that too. I love that too.
I love the ring work, but I love the story.
Yeah.
And probably why I love, the WCW, the Wars, and the attitude there was a story that was crossing over with 2 promotions. And it felt like, everybody says the word soap opera, but it really felt like real life. Like it was tension.
Yes. Yeah.
And again, what's the greatest thing, like with acting, what I try to tell young actors all the time is you have to make it that when you get on screen, no one knows what's going to happen. Whether you're a good guy or a bad guy, a dad or a criminal, like you got to be unpredictable because that keeps people's retinas glued to the screen. Mm-hmm. With wrestling at that time, I had to watch and I had to flip back and forth and I had to see what was happening because I didn't know. There was no Twitter. There was no people talking about it. You just had to find out. So the storyline stuff was so prominent, right? And the wrestling was cool.
Right.
But then I felt like for me, where it started to get a little crazy was when the ECW stuff and, the holy shit and the, all the Sandman stuff and all the people who were doing all these crazy things.
Right.
Because Abdul the Butcher used to do that back in the day, like cut himself up and everybody be bleeding all the time.
Yeah.
And that was cool, but I wanted the storyline stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm with your son, but your son started young, right? Did he know he was going to do this for a while?
No, not at all. I mean, he played football throughout his whole school career and graduated from high school and went to community college. He was just like me, man. He's not a school guy. When he just doesn't have it in him. And he did about 3 months of college, and he said, "Dad," he said, "I want to see if I can try and make it into wrestling." So I like once I saw him go on his path of football, I was like, I'm not, I would have loved for him to ask me, but the time was perfect, in God's hands.
Yep.
I didn't push him. I didn't pursue him. I didn't say, "Hey, come on. Why don't you want to be part of this? You're the next generation." Yep. But it came within him. It was organic when he asked me to do it. And I said, "Sure, let's go in the ring and see what you got. And I'll be the first to say, you know what? Oh, yes, or you're going to have to put a lot of work in." but he developed very fast. And there's a certain word that I always forget that they say he has. When you're around this sport your whole life, it's just within you, you know. And when he stepped in the ring, and I was realizing that he was doing one mistake, and I would tell him, no, you got to do this way, and he perfected the next time around. So I wouldn't have to tell him twice on certain things, and he was picking up like right away. I'm like, damn, this is crazy. Like it's just it's in his genes.
My sons are 5 and 3. My little guy will be 3 in in a week or whatever, 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got the 5-year-old, and they just, the other day, my wife and I, we put them to sleep, and we were watching one of these new movies I did came out. It was this, like horror, thriller, whatever it was that, the way the world is now, things just come out.
Did you just drop that?
Yeah, it just came out
check it out.
last week, right? But it's from the guy who did he directed Butterfly Effect and Final Destination. It's just, whatever. It's a crazy movie that I did a couple of years back. And we had it on, and again, it's like a horror movie / thriller.
Uh-huh.
And we put it on the big TV, and my son can't stay in bed. My 5-year-old, he's like up out of bed, goes to sleep, up out of bed, hides under the table, like just scares the shit out of you. He's always somewhere in the house.
That was me when I was young.
Yeah. Like he just won't, he's getting up at least 5 times when he goes down. Before he goes to bed.
Yeah.
So he had seen me on screen, but he was hiding. So I heard him. And I said, come on, Daddy, let's go. I'll get you up to bed. Come on. And I took him up. And when I went to put him in bed, he goes, you were on the TV. And I said,
that was the first time.
Yeah. Like he has, but it was the first time he started because I had like blood all over my face, and I had on a military uniform, and I had, and it obviously wasn't me, but it was me.
Yes.
And he was asking about it. So I'm trying to explain it to him, like what acting is, what pretending is, what I do. Like, hey, you watch Paw Patrol, you watch Moana, you watch but then when you watch the real ones, when you watch like these real movies like The Goonies and the Artemis Fowls or Harry Potter, that's me, but, and he was having such a hard time processing it, because before it, when I would ask him, what does Daddy do for work? What does your pop do for work? He'd go, he's on the phone. Cause I'm always on the phone. Yeah. So he thinks that's what I do for work.
That's awesome.
So for you, like yours is different because you're going into it's a Target now, but back in my day, it's like a Kmart or a Walmart or Toys R Us, and you're like there, like they're seeing you.
Yeah.
Did you have to explain that at a certain age to your kids of like?
They grew up around the sport. Both of my kids, my daughter is 18 and Aaliyah is 18 and Dominic is 23, but they were surrounded by this wrestling atmosphere at a very young age that I would travel with them. Sometimes I'd take my son with me. Sometimes I'd take just my daughter with me. Sometimes I would take both of them, and I would give my wife her alone time, and I would travel with both of them. And they just grew up around this business at a very young age that it was normal to them. It was just so normal. As a matter of fact, when we did The Angle with Dominic and Eddie, Dominic was 7 years old. Now, the one thing that helped me out is the fact that I used a mask. So I still had a sense of a private life. Yeah. So, but Dominic was in 5th grade doing a storyline on TV. And the kids, at that age, pretty much a good 80% of the kids are wrestling fans. You can't deny it. Yeah.
But how crazy is that? Like, you just touch on something which is so amazing, because it's what I try to do. Why I try to look so different in everything I do is because I'm an actor and I love my anonymity, right? Like, I like to just go kick it, and I have the same friends since I'm young. I like to just live like
normal
people.
Life.
Yeah, and whatever that means, right, nowadays, right?
Yes.
But like when people come up and they say like Juice or Shades or whatever they call my character name, I'm so happy because I don't want them to know my real name. They're like, sorry, I don't know your real name. And I'm like, no, that's great. That's good that you don't know my name.
Yeah.
With you've kind of got the best of both worlds. You were able to do this incredible thing since you were literally a little kid, and yet keep your anonymity in a way. I mean, now it's changed with social media and life and,
Right.
you know, and people knowing everything and, you know, whatever, but you got to truly keep your anonymity. Was that ever something where you were like, oh man, I kind of wish that like I had like where those guys who go out and can't go anywhere, like The Rock can't go anywhere,
Right.
Hogan can't go anywhere, or Austin can't go anywhere. Like, you know, Taker lives right near here. And I mean, there's so many guys out in Austin. Everybody's out here. I think,
Right.
The Miz is out here, Kofi,
Mark Henry.
Henry. Yeah, everybody's out here. Those guys, if someone knows them, if whatever the technical term is, someone's a mark or even just knows them, they see them, you know that guy, you know him.
Right.
You were able to exist kind of
On
in
the outside.
shadows.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And that was a very good thing for me. When we traveled in groups, they would always spot and try to put two and two together. Yeah, that's Ray. But when I would travel alone, you know, I'd have my privacy. Nobody would come up to me. You know, I'm very private when I travel as well. So it was actually, I was getting the best of both worlds. On screen, I had the mask on, and they knew Rey Mysterio, but outside of the ring, they didn't know who Oscar was, which was cool. Yeah. Now,
And was go ahead.
No, I was
I
going to
have
say
a question.
When I lost my mask in WCW against Nash and Hall, that's where it really turned my whole world around. But if I think that if that moment wouldn't have happened, I would have been able to hide my identity up until this day, even with social media and stuff, and not have the fans know who's behind the mask. So that gave it all away. You see one of the most famous wrestlers in Mexico, Santo Jr. or El Hijo del Santo. Still to this day, there's no pictures out there of him being caught without his mask. Like, he's very, very protective of his image. You know who Santo is, but you don't know who the man behind the mask is. And I think that is so cool. That's a mystique within Lucha Libre. That's incredible.
And speaking of that, and my question was, even back in the day, because before camera phones, it was very rare that people had cameras on them. But if they were at events, they would have a camera, right? Very rarely, like now it's like you're at an airport, anywhere you go, every single person has a camera, everybody.
Yeah.
Because it's in their phone. Would you have to be super strategic about if someone did figure out it was you, where you're like, nah, I can't do that. Nah, I can't take the picture. Or would you just always have your mask on?
No, at first I was very, I'm sorry, man. I don't take pictures without the mask. And I said, I'll sign anything you want. And I would sign a picture or whatever they'd have. But, I kind of started losing that edginess of pushing them away. I felt bad because I'm very dedicated to my fans, man. I'm so loyal to them.
Love it.
And I truly believe that you know, first it's the company that opens up the doors in order for me to perform on their main stage, and then it's the fans that follow my career that I owe my success to. You know, so I kind of lost that throughout the years, where once I had lost the mask, I was just taking pictures without the mask. You know, I wrestled for about a year and a half.
Yeah, because you wrestled for a little while without it. But before that, were you kind of protective?
Oh, very protective. Very protective. I wouldn't take pictures without the mask. Very protective.
What.
And you gotta picture too the fact that I really had a private life. Nobody knew who I was. I didn't have tattoos, so it was very, very rare that somebody would spot me and say, "That's Rey Mysterio." And there was even a sense of not wanting to approach me to even ask me, because, you know, it felt disrespectful to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
Now, and again, because it's all changed so much, you know, with cameras and all that stuff. But like you said, it's like, I'm with you, right? One of the things I can never understand, I'll never get it through my head, is someone who's in a business where you need people to, pay or take their time out of their life to see you,
right,
for you to have a career, right? So like what we do.
Yeah.
And then to see people reject that with fans is the strangest thing I've ever seen in my life, because I'll be with people who fans just love and they won't give them a minute. And I like immediately, it's over for me with that person. I can never respect them again, because if you don't have them, you don't have a career. Like, I just don't get it. Yeah. So I've always been like you. I am so, and again, sometimes it's hard, but like because sometimes I feel bad. Like, I want to talk to everybody and I want to give everybody as much time. And sometimes I'm with my kids and I'm with my wife, and it's like, I'm just like, I want to talk to everyone and really give them that experience. Yeah. And I think that I've always been blown away by the more, the bigger people get, the more they retreat, the more they stay away from everyone, the less they deal with people, the less they talk about people. And then what I notice is in their work, like when I'm watching them as an actor, I'm watching them in an interview, they've become so disconnected from reality that I can't even listen to them. I can't listen. They can't talk to me about anything.
Right. Now, for some reason, am I tripping here, or do you, because I've seen this happen a lot, the more they detach from their fan base, it almost seems like the fan base gets bigger. There's negative thoughts and sayings about them because, they never give you the time to sign, or he never signs or take pictures.
Yeah.
But for some reason, that person or that character gets bigger and bigger. Now, I can't understand that. I've seen it happen. Maybe it doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah, I think that there is a part of the mystery of it. Like, like someone like, I can only say maybe in acting, like someone who I really don't know anything about, and he's probably the most famous actor on the planet, is DiCaprio, right? Like Leo DiCaprio is like, very rarely is he doing a late night talk show, or very rarely do you see him unless he's specifically promoting a film or the environment. We don't really know much about him. When he's out, he's holding his hat down, he's whatever. But what I've always taken that as is, and I can't imagine being in his position, is he's protecting his characters. Like you were protecting your character.
Yes.
Now, when I go to a Leo DiCaprio movie, I'm not seeing Leo DiCaprio. I'm seeing the person he's playing because I don't know anything about him. Mm-hmm. Where when your personal life and all that stuff starts to really get in the public, it's very, like, one of my favorite actors, and, just because I love his films, is Tom Cruise, but I know I'm watching Tom Cruise. Like, it's just Tom Cruise with long hair. It's Tom Cruise with short hair.
Yes.
It's Tom Cruise in space. I don't know his character names. I just know it's Tom Cruise.
Right. I know exactly. Yeah.
Because I know so much about Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
So I think that for a lot of actors, if they're really trying to protect the work, which I think people like DiCaprio are. Now, on the flip side of that, there are actors who, they're the brand. So like, there's certain actors, some who even crossed over from your business who like that when they play a character, it's them just in a different costume. Right. Mm-hmm. And people love it and accept it. And they tweet 400 times a day, and they let everyone into their world, and, they show their kids' faces, and they show what they're eating for breakfast, and they show whatever. And that's amazing. I try to kind of guide a line. Like I can't do that at all.
Right.
I can't do that. I don't show my kids' faces. I don't,
that's your personal space.
That's that's their mine. Like that's the last thing in the world that's mine.
Yeah.
In a way of like, and also because the truth is I don't trust anybody. I'm a kid who just doesn't trust anybody. If anybody could I see these people, my wife and I were talking this the other day. You see like people post like happy graduation to my son from, this whatever school. And they say the name of the school. I'm like, man, if somebody was tracking them, you just gave them the graduation, the age, the school, that's crazy.
I'm very picky with that as well. Very, very picky. Yeah. It's crazy.
It's scary. I tell my wife, we're on vacation, like, don't post pictures till we get back, because if we're there and someone's there, like, they could find you and then, whatever.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So and again, it's just, I guess it's like a street mentality. Like, I've always thought about that. I've always kind of been protective of, what would people do? But what's so interesting to me is, like you said, when people are completely removed, I think that that's a bit of a thing of the past, where I think now, if you're out of the conversation, because look how we started this call, this sit down. Imagine that a fan who just saw you at a show can direct message you on a social media platform, and you're probably going to see it. Whether you respond or not is irrelevant, but they're going to write you directly.
Yeah.
I can't imagine when I was young writing like Hillbilly Jim a message, or like, I can't even imagine that. I would lose my mind if I knew that he even had the potential of reading it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I was actually going that same thought process was going through my mind last night and today because I'm on Cameo.
Yeah.
So
I know.
So they sent me a message saying, Ray, I would really love to meet you. I'm from Philadelphia and I write scripts and I would really love for you to take a look at some of the scripts that I've written, for storylines. So it hit me like, wow, I mean, he's not requesting a cameo, but he's reaching out to me to see if I could take the time, which I think is cool, but anybody can do it now.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm literally in the same thing that happened to you. A guy who's a writer reached out to me recently. And I think he lives in Mexico, and he said, I wrote the script and, would you read it just to give me an opinion? And I thought, yeah, I mean, of course, I'll read it. Like, I want everybody to succeed. I want everyone to do well. Yes. So I was like, but then I was reading it and my wife was like, what are you reading? I said, I'm reading the script. She said, oh, is this something they're offering you? And I said, no, I'm just giving this guy, I'm going to give him advice. And she was like, oh, but then when you think about it, like, that's taking away from, like, if you do that all the time, you have no life.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you take away from your kids and you take away from your life or something else you might do, or maybe even just sitting in silence and like thinking for a second.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I mean, you can always make this an exception and say, you know what, I'm going to do this for this guy, just because you had that good vibe during that moment and you were going to review it and send him an approval, but it isn't something that you can do all the time and with everyone. So.
I try. I always say I give my best effort to respond to fan mail. I give my best effort to respond to everyone, in a message, even if it's just like a few emojis, like just to show you like, hey, I'm saying hello. I'm appreciative. And at the same time, I'm writing, I'm doing this show, I'm preparing for a movie. So it's like, and again, little kids and all that. So you try your best. What I've been fascinated by, like you said, is the people who don't try at all. They're just like, nah, I don't do that. And they're like okay with that. Like I've been with people walk up to them like, hey, can I take a picture? And like, no, I don't do that. I'm like, oh, wow, really?
Yeah, crazy. It makes you feel awkward, right?
It makes me feel awkward. Yeah. And they're like, go right back to their food they're eating. They're like, they didn't even think about it. They're just like, no, I don't do that. And I'm like, oh, wow, what kind of person is this? But I don't know their deal. I don't know the situation. So it is. And I think that's the part. You're in it so much more because I think like something like Sons of Anarchy was the closest I can come to it, where the people. By the way,
I love that show. Wow.
Thank you so much.
Man, that was awesome. My wife and I enjoyed it to the fullest.
Did you watch it from the beginning, or you started watching?
No, I watched from the beginning, and my wife's a big fan of Charlie. So yeah.
I mean, who isn't? Everyone is.
I just finished watching The Gentleman. Oh my God!
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh
is
my
it good?
God! Oh my God! What a movie!
Oh, I got to see it.
You have to check it out. You're gonna.
Maybe I'll watch it tonight. It's because I love Guy Ritchie too.
Yeah. Awesome.
What's so funny is like when we were doing that show, it was on weekly for 7 years, every 6 months. So we became family with the people that watched it. So when they would see me, they felt like they knew me because it was like, I've lived with you for 7 years.
Yes.
Now, if we binge watch a show, we binge watch 13 episodes in, let's say, 2 weeks, you don't really have a full connection to the person. Like it might stay fresh in your mind for like 2 months, but the chance of you seeing that person is kind of zero. And then you forget about it. And then you go, oh yeah, if you meet someone, you go, oh, you were on that show I watched, whatever.
Right.
What I think is so with you is you've been in these people's lives since, I mean, whenever 2002,
yeah.
18 years you've been in their life.
This is just with WWE,
Yeah.
We can go back to 1996 in WCW. But yeah, I mean, since 96 all the way up to 220.
Technically, for me, it's like from WCW, when you came in, you're doing, all that stuff, and Billy Kidman and Psychosis, all those guys you were working with, so like 96, right?
The Great American Bash was my first match in WCW. It was a pay-per-view in Baltimore. Yeah.
And what year is that?
That was 1996. Dominic, my son wasn't even born yet. He was born in 97, so yeah.
So technically, you're part of these people's lives for 24 years.
Yeah. Wow.
And so they feel they know they've been through the roller coaster with you. They've been through everything. Some of the things we're talking about, some of the other stuff, they've been through everything with you. So if they see you, it's like, hey, man, how are you? Like, I know you.
Yeah.
And I totally, that clicked with me when I was doing Sons was people would feel bad for Juice. They'd like see me and they'd be like, oh man, are you all right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm all right. I'm a little tired, and they'd be like, no. Like, what happened with, the Mayans and this?
Right.
And I'm like, no, I'm okay. Like, that's just.
Yes. Yeah.
But you get like injuries and stuff. You've been, I know you had knee injuries and stuff, but like throughout, what has been some of your like worst?
I'd have to say the worst has been my left knee overall. I haven't had any other surgeries besides my bicep. I tore my right bicep and I tore my left one, but I decided not to get surgery on my left one. But my left knee has taken most of the wear and tear off of 32 years. A little bit over 9 surgeries. Wow. Yeah. But you know what? That's why they have stem cells now. And those stem cells have been incredible. I kid you not, Theo. I did a treatment in Colombia in August of last year. Mm-hmm. And I probably shot up my body with a little bit over 300 million stem cells. I probably would not be moving the way I'm moving in the ring if it wasn't for that treatment. BioAccelerator is the name of the place. Incredible.
Yeah. It's truly, I don't understand what the kind of holdup is, of the whole thing, like how it's not, we've known this for a while. I think I remember the first time I ever heard it was first time I even heard the term was, the only reason I remember, I'm not a political guy, but Bush was president because I remember he didn't want to use them. There was something where he was like, don't use them because it was something to do with fetuses or something. There was something going on then,
right,
where they thought it was like a religious problem of something. Right. But for me, I'm the same. Again, I run, 5 to 10 miles every morning, train jujitsu, in the gym, doing whatever. And for me, if I don't take care of myself, like for me, it's like CBD. I have to take a lot of like CBD for inflammation.
Advocate for that. Yep.
I have to. And so for you, it's like those stem cells repair your knee. Mm-hmm. Even with the surgeries, you're taking those, but you're still taking hits. I mean, do you do a full schedule anymore or no? You haven't done a full.
No, those days are long gone, especially now with the pandemic. But you got to keep in mind, we were going 4 days a week, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, fly back home Tuesday. You rest Wednesday, you rest Thursday, and you're back out Friday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And we had that schedule. I had that schedule for about 15 years.
Oh.
Yeah. Not to mention that when we would do overseas tours, we'd go 11 days straight. Like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, come back home, Sunday, and then do one more TV back in the US and then fly back home and then rest for 3 or 4 days and back on the road again. Like we were just on the grind, but we're used to it.
And your body, you think your body gets used to it? Your body's just like, this is what it is.
Your body, I think, becomes a callus and it becomes just ingrained with all those bumps and the traveling. The one thing you could never get used to is the traveling. Whether it's Europe, 8 hours, or whether it's Australia, 15 hours. That's probably the hardest part. And the fact that sometimes we would get in and we'd have a couple hours to rest and then straight to the venue.
How do guys work out? Like, do they still work out? Do people still go to the gym and stuff?
Yeah. Believe it or not, man. Believe it or not. We build a tolerance for little sleep. We build a tolerance for getting our workout in, because if you don't get your workout in, you don't feel good when it comes showtime.
Right.
So, and that's a daily thing. I mean, even if we're away from home and we're doing an 11-day tour, mm-hmm. we work out at least 8 of the 11 days.
And then when you come home, like, and now again, balancing family, this has always been the thing that people always ask me. And it's so interesting because also with films, and it's the same thing with you can't just like turn it on when you go to the movie, right? You have to prep, You have to do work. You have to like read the script. You have to like, get into character, lose weight, gain weight, whatever you're doing. But same with you. You got to know, okay, I'm going to do this move, or I'm going to create something, or I'm going to try this, or maybe you're working on something with the mic and, there's a feud of something going on. So even when you're resting, you're kind of not resting. You're, unless you actually take a break, right?
That's it. Mm-hmm.
You're always kind of in that mode. And I've always said the hardest part is, especially with two little kids in the family, is even if I'm like sitting down to watch a movie, even if I'm sitting down for dinner, sometimes my mind is still going on the other stuff. And I have to get better. And I'm still working it to separate it.
Yeah.
To give myself, to give my family, to give my life, and to give myself that break. It's very hard, that balance.
I think it's probably much harder for you. For me, it was quite simple. Once I came home, that I knew how to turn the switch off, because I was getting so much wrestling, so much. I gave so much of my time to fans, for pictures, for everything, but I never would look at it like that. I just knew that when I would come home, it was family time. Mm-hmm. And I would just shut it down, and no wrestling at home. It was strictly family. Although I did lose a lot of those special moments, because I was either on the road or because I came home too tired and I couldn't take my kids to school. I couldn't pick them up. I couldn't, I did most of their school plays and, mm-hmm. and anything that they had to do during their school time. But I missed a lot of the taking them to school and picking them up and being around them, at a very young age, which I regret.
Yeah, I mean, when my first son was born, I was doing a film called LOWRIDERS, and I literally left like we were doing a take, and I knew she was in the hospital, and I got on a plane from LA and like flew back, and I was there for I think 3 or 4 days, and then back to filming.
Were you there for a birth?
I was there when he was born,
okay.
And I just got in, and it was like, again, you just don't know, and it was like I knew I was coming in, and then I had to just go right back. So I had all like tattoos everywhere on me for the character. So I'm in the hospital, like covered in tattoos.
That's crazy.
And like, looking like a totally different person while I'm taking pictures with my son. And it was, but that's kind of the game. What about the people who are like, cause I see this a lot with actors, and like, I always say this, and there's a lot of people like this, especially a lot of the older guys that are addicted to like the, in our business, it'd be like, they're addicted to the set life. They love people coming up to them and asking them if they want a latte. They love being like around people, and they love being in this like microcosm world. Do you have like in yours, would it be like adrenaline junkies? Like when they have that rest time, they almost don't know how to function. So they maybe go the other way. And maybe that's all those historical stories of people who are nuts with like drinking and like, cause they can't turn it off in a way. Like they have that just constant going.
I think that atmosphere that was so big in the 90s. Yeah. It was just the camaraderie that has always existed within the locker rooms in wrestling. And the fact that, now it's, you finish a wrestling show and, they might get together to play a little PSP or PlayStation or have dinner. Back then it was, where's the club? Let's go have some drinks. Let's go have some drinks at the bar, at the lobby, So I don't think it was so much that they couldn't shut it down. I just think that that was the vibe back then. And, if you didn't hang out, you were going to see that the next time the boys went out, you were part of them, because that's just how we hang. And, but overall, that adrenaline that you feel usually tends to die down within a matter of hours after the show, and which still gives you enough time to go out and have some drinks and enjoy the rest of the night if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, and see, for actors, it was the same thing, right? Like, back in the day was so different. Like now, especially the last few years, well, for me, it's probably been forever, because I started so low in the business as like an extra, and I was just always happy to be there. And then, Sons changed my life. But I think that for me, it was like, especially being family, it was like, okay, I'm done with work. I'm out. I go home or I lay low or, because I'm such a big preparer. And I also always play these kind of more complex characters. So I always had a slightly hard time shutting it off. So it was like, it's not cool to like be out if you're in like this homicidal maniac mindset that you're in. So I would just kind of lay low.
That's got to be crazy though.
It's weird. Well, I needed it. It's like, I think I would say it probably makes me a worse actor because I'm in awe of the people like, my buddy Perlman does it so well where like he turns it on and off, where like he could be talking about anything, the ball game, and then they say action and he's psychotic and does the thing. And I'm like, wow. And then turns it right off. I can't do that. Right. Mm-hmm. And what I've seen in wrestling a lot is, and I can only use that as a comparison, is a lot of these guys seem like, the Macho Man was like the Macho Man all the time, right? Like it was like these guys, you know what I mean?
I had that doubt. I was like, man, I wonder if when I meet the Macho Man, if I do, I wonder if he speaks the way I grew up watching him on TV. And sure enough, hey, Ray, how you doing? Like, wow, what a trip. I'm a big fan, man. Oh, it was awesome. It was awesome.
He lived down the block from me in New York, where I grew up in New York City. Yeah, him and Miss Elizabeth lived in like this apartment complex, literally right by the mall where I grew up. And he'd always be in there.
Wow, that's crazy.
And this is the 80s, bro. This is like 85, 86, 87, 80. And he's the top.
Yeah.
And here he is living in Staten Island, New York. And I was like, this is Macho Man and Miss. But again, what I noticed when I met him, he was exactly the same as he was
before, right? Like before he passed. He never changed. He never changed. No. He's one of my all-time favorites, man. I would love his gear, just his showmanship, everything. He was so awesome. So awesome.
And you got to work with him.
I didn't get a chance to work with him, but he came in to WCW. And I was actually just skimming through it the other day where he was doing the NWO.
Yep.
And he was trying to recruit me to be part of the NWO. But I was just to be able to share that ring time with him was an honor, man. You have no idea.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because again, these legends kind of come and go in all things, right? And I think that that's what's so amazing to me about you is not just did you just change the way people wrestle, but like, okay, like we're like I said earlier, we're around the same age. I was just telling this to my homie the other day. Like we came up and there was, I'm not a hockey fan, but there was Wayne Gretzky, there was Michael Jordan, there was Mike Tyson, there was the Michael Jackson, there was like the tops of the tops in every way. People who changed the game, like the game of basketball is played different after Michael Jordan. Boxing is different after Mike Tyson. Hip hop is different after Tupac and Biggie. Like things change. Hockey's different after Wayne Gretzky. I felt like with you with wrestling's different after you because
that's a huge compliment, Theo. Wow.
But I'm telling you from an outsider, you did something. If you really look at it, and I think any wrestling fan or any even, half fair weathered fan can look at it and go, and where the payoff is in that statement is if you look at the wrestlers now, it's not the giant guys doing the razor's edge and the, the big things and the big hulking huge dudes where there's still some of that. Everybody's trying to be that fast, quick, agile, high-flying wrestler, and you were doing that before anyone was.
Yeah, well, that's crazy. I hardly ever take the time to put those type of things in perspective and just sit back and let it sink in. It's moments like these that make me really understand and go, damn, has it been that big of an impact? And then like I've never put myself in the place of like right now that I shared the story that to be able to share the ring with Macho Man, and I wished I would have been able to wrestle against him, and amongst him others like Bret Hart. I wish I could have shared the ring with Bret Hart. Another one was Shawn Michaels, which I did get the chance, but these are all guys that I grew up watching that I was just in awe and nervous. Like the first time I faced Shawn, but I've never put myself in that state of mind where I'm the one who they want to wrestle with. And
And you are now.
Wow. Yeah,
and
that's
you are
crazy.
now.
That's crazy. Wow.
And like, it's like when I met Flair, like I said, like I knew Flair pre, NWA, like back in the day when he was, doing all this stuff with, Muda and when he was like really adopting the high flying limo ride and, all that stuff when that all came into fruition. And when I was with Flair, I was like, this is crazy. Like he's Mount Rushmore of like he's done something.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, and this is when his documentary came out and we all knew so much about him personally, but as an entertainer, he was like almost like the Johnny Carson of like,
yes.
You knew every word he said. He created he carved a lane out of something that never in the best shape, never the best, but just give him a mic and you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think that now seeing people, obviously any young wrestler, anyone feels that way about you. And I think that you saying that about the other guys is so crazy because I get like that sometimes where I get to act across people and I'm like, I'm so in my characters, but I have to say to myself, oh man, this is cool. I love this person in that movie or this other movie or this other thing that I seen them in. And I have to separate and kind of like do my job and like get at it in the scene. But it's really interesting how that time shifts. And again, when you brought up Hitman, I was never like, honestly, I was just never a huge Bret Hart fan. I loved the Hart Foundation. I loved their finisher. I loved when Anvil would lift him up and Bret would come with the clothesline across the ring. I loved that.
Yeah.
But our mutual friend, Jesse, when like the Roots of Fight stuff dropped for you, that was a game changer for the company Roots of Fight, bro. That was and I'm sure it was a game changer for you too, right?
Big time. Yeah. I was, being a big fan of the brand and just seeing what they were doing and how they were tapping into the history of pretty much every major sport here in the U.S.
Started with fighting. Yeah.
Yeah. To be able to be a part of that collection of the Tysons, the Alis, the Bruce Lees, I was like, wow, that just put me on a different, it just catapulted me,
And yours was so different. Like, I'm wearing, and just so everybody knows what we're talking about, Roots of Fight is an apparel company. If you don't know what they are, look them up. And the second you go on the page, you're going to know because you see them on everyone.
Yeah.
And it's my buddy Jesse. I was actually there with him at the inception of the company because he used to do documentaries on fighting. Mm-hmm. And like me, Snoop, a bunch of us sat down to do this documentary on, maybe it was on Tyson, maybe it was on somebody. And then there was the first time he ever handed me a shirt. It was like a Boom Boom Mancini shirt. And I was like, wow, this shirt's really comfortable. This is like years and years, 08, whatever it was.
That's
09, I don't even know. And then I watched then he got Ali and like everything changed. Like everybody was wearing the Ali stuff and Tyson, it was like, forget it, through the roof. But when your stuff came out, that apparel, it was so different because everything had been not basic, but had been very like, here's what it is, the fighter's name, something cool, a catchphrase. And yours looked like artwork. Like it was like straight up artwork.
Yeah.
And it blew up. People started going nuts over it.
It's crazy. Well, you also figure that Jesse gave a variety of Rey Mysterio piece that was completely different from what you've seen over the last, 20, 24 years. Everything you normally see out there is wrestling related. This was the wrestling concept was thrown out the window. This was completely different. Like they were really tapping into the roots. We have these sarapes that we use in Mexico. It's like a poncho, and the colors are very green, red, white.
On the insides of the jacket?
The inside of the jacket, which is a sarape print, which I thought was incredible. When he showed me the piece for that, and he goes, what do you think? I said, oh my God, that blew my mind.
Blew my mind. Man.
Yeah. And the fact that we can give something to the fans as well. I told Jesse, what if we throw in a mask and we give fans a mask with the jacket? Just give them something that's part of my roots. And, we've made a great collaboration together, man. But yeah, and we're getting ready.
I got two of those masks now. Oh yeah. I can't wait. Oh. Yeah, I'll tell you. And I'm so fortunate because I got two masks, from you that are on my, display, whatever. And You know, with the Root stuff, I mean, I'm wearing Andre the Giant shorts right now, which is crazy. It's like one of his first Roots of Wrestling stuff. And then I'm seeing like the Hitman stuff to bring up Brett. Like I was never like a crazy Brett fan. And I know everybody, a lot of people, he's, you know, Mount Rushmore for them. He's top 5. You know, he's just such a unique personality in wrestling. And now his stuff is like going crazy.
Yeah.
You know, his apparel, which I'm so happy for him. But I talked to Jesse a lot about it, and, you know, we talk about like who would be, because, you know, wrestling has such a huge crossover in like hip hop, in acting, in sports, obviously, especially when DX was at its craziest, NWO, football, the NFL, like everything. It's always had, it was kind of like with Sons of Anarchy. Like I would see that Sons of Anarchy symbol, that Reaper, everywhere at like sporting events and all these different things. And people, you know, like everybody was all of a sudden like knew about biker clubs, and you were
becomes
like, wow,
a trend, huh?
Becomes a trend.
Yes.
And I think that that's the coolest thing about wrestling is like, even if you're not like, I just did a movie with, you know, our guy, our mutual friend, me and Bautista just did a movie together, for Zack Snyder, and Dave's, you know, he's something else. He's just,
he's a big teddy bear, man.
He's a big teddy bear. And it was just, Dave. I love Dave, and he's just such the dude. Like he's just such a good guy, and he's such a big guy, and he's like, you know, he's just, and he's funny, and he's, you know, whatever. And I'm loving seeing like this big crossover stuff that's happening, you know, and I spent time with Christian, who's been doing a lot of acting. I know he's back in the thing right now, and obviously Dwayne, but seeing the way people react, like all my friends in hip hop, how they react to wrestling, right? Like, which is just so nuts, because I think there's so many parallels. And that's why I think that when we were young, the whole kayfabe thing, the whole thing that, you know, when everything was keeping it, I'll never forget. I was living in New York City, obviously born and raised there. And on the cover of the Daily News, they had caught 2 wrestlers. I think it was Sheik and Hillbilly Jim. Hacksaw. They were going to wrestle at the Garden that night. And they had caught them like with, you know, doing, you know, illegal activity. They had, and it was on the cover of the newspaper. And as a young kid, I don't know what year it was. I have to go look. I was like, what? Why were they together? They hate each other.
That's your worry at the moment, right? Why would they be together?
Not that they're going to jail.
Or they're doing illegal stuff.
Doing illegal stuff. I was like, why are they together? Meanwhile, you know, my mom or my sister who's ever reading it is probably like, what is going on here? These guys were doing this. And I'm like, wait, they know each other?
That's awesome.
Because, you know, again, we had this thing in our head, and I think that that's such a crazy experiment of how much Vince and them and everybody was like, you know, promoting this certain thing. And then it was so funny because what I think it did, and I guess from knowing so many guys now in the game, is that it took away for a second the actual agility, pain, and all the stuff that comes with wrestling, that people are like, oh, well, if it's not real, then they're not getting hurt. And I'm like, no.
Right.
Let me tell you what I know from, and this is as I got older and seeing guys who are much older and meeting the Road Warriors and guys who have been bumping forever, you know, your body takes a beating.
Definitely.
Especially the bigger guys.
Yes. I was just about to say that. I said, I can take a beating, but, you know, I'm a $175. You know, you talk about these guys that back then, 250, 300, 350, you know, these are big dudes that are landing on their bodies constantly, you know, sometimes four times a week, you know, nonstop, you know, and some of those bruises and bumps that you've taken throughout the years, they'll catch up to you. And without you wanting to leave the business, you have to stand back. I just saw Big Show 2 weeks ago up in Orlando, and I believe he just had a hip replacement. I know Taker just had a hip replacement.
I was just with Nash back, not recently, but relatively recently compared to what the world is now. Like we were in Wales and he had full knee replacements. Like, you know, see, Nash had everything.
That's something that I'm eventually going to have to look into when the time is right. A knee replacement for that left knee. But, you know, again, you talk about my size compared to the guys I just mentioned that are, 6'9", 6'10", 7'2". That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I think that the thing that's so, again, with the state of, where the world is, and there's so many great things happening, but there's also such a confusing time that certain things are so fan driven. I mean, in my business, I'm finally, going to go film something in Canada, but it's like they don't know what to do, right? Because this is just a very confusing time. Things change every day. And with you guys, with that like live audience and kind of all that, I think that like looking back at stuff, when we see how much the world has changed, obviously pre-COVID, pre all this stuff, just seeing like the way business has changed and the way things have become like everything's, that stuff. Like if you look back now, my buddy said to me the other day, he was like, they could never do like a bra and panties match anymore. Like that was stuff they used to do back in the day. They can never do like some of that ECW stuff where they were like, literally going to kill each other.
The hardcore matches.
Hardcore matches with like glass and fire and like it's changed so rapidly. And even the stuff, I mean, obviously the stuff DX was doing and NWO was doing was so, you can say it was mature content. You can say whatever you want, but it was just so different. Let's just say it was so different.
Yeah.
And again, I think a lot of it has to do with, when I go to, Target with my kid, there's hundreds and hundreds of toys and like, it's become a certain thing, was it different? Like as in, just cause I know the world was so different. It's like asking me when I started acting in 2000 to now, did it feel like, would you say because life has become so private now, has it like, was it freer or was it like, not more fun, but it was just different, right?
It was definitely different. Now, I didn't catch that Attitude Era. I caught, right after that, which was roughly about 2002.
Yeah.
But that whole Attitude Era was a game changer because that's when they were competing with WCW, and that's when they had the Monday Night Wars. They had to turn it up a notch. They had to figure out a way to deliver something that hadn't been seen before. And they just did a change of characters. They were kind of going out there, from my understanding, on how some have expressed what they were doing at that time, and winging it. They were just having a good time being themselves. The boys are always shits and giggles and playing ribs on each other. So it was such a different atmosphere, but it was such a fun one. And they were, like you said, we could call it mature content. They were just giving something different to the fans. And of course, the majority of the fan base at that time weren't kids.
No,
they were the teenagers.
Yep.
And up, so they were delivering to a different type of audience. And I think that worked for that time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, within the time that we live now, is it good to make another switch? Because I believe that wrestling needs something right now.
Agree.
It needs something.
Yeah, it needs a spark.
Yes. And what is that spark? I guess we won't know until we pull it off. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that that's kind of what it is, right? It's the same. Listen, it's the same thing in movies and television right now. I mean, I sit here and I see the transformation over the last few years since Sons. I mean, Sons only ended in 2014. And even when I went to do my show after it, Luke Cage, there was such a big difference because that was a streaming show where it was like, okay, here's all 13 episodes and they watch it in 48 hours. I knew people who watched a season of a show in 2-3 days.
Wow.
And now I think that things are going to change again. It's a question of how they're going to change, but I think like we were just saying, you don't know until it happens, but I do know a change is on the horizon, just like I do feel there's a change on the horizon for wrestling. But again, I don't think you know it until it happens.
Right.
I think it's almost and we go back to that Chic, hacksaw stuff, is like when you almost start blurring the lines a little. I remember recently there was something with Ronda Rousey, where I was like, wait a second, is that real? Or she was having like some kind of problem with the WWE, and it was like she was going back and forth, and you don't know, is it real? Is that really happening? Is she really, being the heel here, or is this real? And I think that when you can blur the lines, almost like a Blair Witch type thing, that's when it kind of keeps people guessing, and that makes them want to tune in.
I'm intrigued. Yes. Yeah. 100. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it catches us sometimes that we're in this industry. Whoa, wait a minute. Is this? No way. This can't be real. So if it keeps you doubting, why wouldn't the ordinary fan doubt it? So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, and I think that's why people go back, and those YouTube videos are so popular about old school wrestling and the old times. It's like when you look at like, oh, this guy was, this one beat up that guy for real. Like I'll read a story about Andre where somebody came in and like hit him for real, and Andre like beat the hell out of him in the ring.
Yeah.
And they never, I think it was Big John Studd. He like beat him up.
Yeah. You're right. I saw that.
And that to me is like, that's the story that's so intriguing. Because like, man, this guy tested Andre. But again, it happens, I'm sure, all the time, right? Where somebody does something that's maybe they're just trying to make their bones or something, but they do it against the wrong person. I
mean, I during my time of being in WWE, I saw it happen one time. And that was with Hardcore Holly and Rene Dupree. And I mean, it was nasty. It was nasty. It was literally a wrestling match turned into a street fight. And
he beat him senseless.
From the ring, it went backstage. It was crazy time. Crazy time.
And that to me is like, again, I have to tell people, like sometimes when I'm acting, I'll do anything, like anything can occur when I'm in the character, like whatever is going to happen. So a lot of times I play very, the polar opposite of me. I play like these volatile, like murderous, heavy-handed, psychotic characters. Now, right?
Is that something that you like, or is that something that you look for?
No, it's just what I started in comedy and somehow got to this. I don't know how it happened, but it somehow happened. And what I did for the first time ever on like my last 2-3 movies is I'll sit down with the other actor or actress and I'll say, hey, so we're going to do these scenes and I'm playing this character and you're playing that character. And once between action and cut, we're going to try to make it as real as possible. So things could be said, things could happen. Like, I might slam a door or hit my hand on the desk or whatever it is. But I need you to know, like, I know you know this. I don't want to offend you, but like, I need you to know it's not real. Like, I'm not, I'm in character.
Yeah.
I've never, ever had to say that before, but I have to say it now because the game has changed so much.
Wow.
Where even other actors could like take something the wrong way. So I'll give you like an example. Like I would improv a lot. Like I might not say what's on the script. I might add something or say something different. And that's been worked out with the director and the writer or, whatever. I'm just going to say what comes in.
Put it into your own words, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I've had other actors in the scene go, cut. He's saying something different. And I'm like, no. Keep going. Like, don't stop. Don't stop because, but they don't know how to do it. And it's because the game has changed so much that like acting is you're pretending to do something, which you know all about, right? You pretend we're being something else.
Right.
But at the same time, now we're so concerned about like acting like, oh, look what this person did in that movie or look what this person did on that show. And you're like, yeah, but they're acting. That's not real. That's, so it's really interesting to me because I've seen it over 20 years. And again, as someone who started as an extra, as someone who started as one line in a TV show, or one role in a TV show, one small, 2 scenes, I would watch these actors, my idols. The Alfre Woodards, the Jimmy Smiths, I would watch them and I'd watch what they do. And I'm like, oh man, that's amazing.
Right.
Katie Seagal, I would watch them and it was amazing. And now I've seen like with the younger actors, like a lot of them, don't think outside of those lines. So it's just such an interesting time. And why I say that I think there is some kind of change coming soon, right? Because it's weird now. Everything's changed.
Yes. Yeah. It's inevitable. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, man. And, you know, like I said, I mean, your stuff, there's just so much stuff that, like, you know, your stuff with Eddie and like and I know it's hard when people say to you, it's like when people say to me, when people come up to me and they're like, oh man, I loved you on this. And I'm like, yeah, it's all right. It's all right. I get weird when people give me compliments because I just think it's like, it's just not how my mind works.
Right.
But with you, I'm telling you, as someone, what I've just always loved, and I just think is you are a game changer in this life. Like, that's incredible. To game change something, an industry, to game change an entire industry, which you've done, is amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, looking at it that way, it is insane to even fathom what has been accomplished throughout, 32 years of being in this sport, when all I really wanted to do is get an opportunity. And I remember promoters wouldn't want to take the risk of booking a kid on their shows because, God forbid, I get hurt. They don't want to feel responsible. So, just to have that one opportunity to wrestle in front of a crowd turned into this huge success. But it's been the passion that I've had for this sport, since a kid. I 5 years old, wrestling with my uncle, doing backflips, and it's something that I can't deny. I think I passed over to my son, who I hope can somehow pave his own path and create his own legacy.
Yeah, and again, and that's so beautiful, and it's such a great way to end this because you innovated. You took something. What I try to tell people all the time is you took an opportunity, you saw what you wanted, and you said, okay, this is what I want to do, but how do I carve my own lane and my own road in this map? I'm going to draw my own parts of this map, my own roadways. And you did that, which is almost impossible because, like I told you about the Jordans, the Gretzkys, the Tysons, the Michael Jackson, it's like you look at things and they've been done so many different ways, so many different times. And then for someone to come in and say, no, here, I'm going to do this. And you've never seen this before. And then that's going to become almost the norm. Mm-hmm. That's incredible. And man, I just, it's why I love you. It's why I have so much respect for you and just in all ways. So I appreciate you, brother. Go get some rest, go do your thing. And,
oh man, it's Monday. It's Monday. I don't have to travel. I just chill here at home this whole week.
I love it, brother.
I got to do home chores now. My wife is probably going to get me doing some work here around the house.
Good. Go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it, brother.
Yeah.
It's such a pleasure. And, yeah, man, tell everybody, everybody knows you're amazing on social media. I follow you on everything, Rey Mysterio everywhere. And, yeah, man.
Thank you.
It's good talking to you, brother.
Much love, man. Love you too, homie. I appreciate you.
I love you too, brother.
Having me on your podcast, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Enjoy the day. All right. There he is. There it is. Rey Mysterio, Oscar, whatever you want to call him, just diving into someone's head who lives a truly a polar opposite life. I mean, probably more similar, slightly similar to mine, but so different from, what other people do as a profession, and to be doing it for the amount of years and as long as he's been doing at such a high level is just pretty amazing to go and dive into that brain for a little while and see what's what. Yeah, I appreciate you all. I say it all the time, but after this one, we're going to start rocking into the Reaper reviews, the double R's, the hashtag Reaper reviews weekly now. We're going to be knocking out some solo episodes, which I know everybody kind of enjoys. I get a lot of people writing about those. So, go to Apple Podcast, subscribe, rate, review, do all that. Go to Spotify, follow, and tell us what episodes you want us to review. For the Reaper reviews, we're going to be sticking within the first 3 seasons, with those upcoming in August. Every week, video and audio. So, you'll find us on YouTube and you'll hear us on audio for the Reaper reviews. So we're pretty excited about that. I know Kim is. And thanks for rocking with us. And we're building. We're building and we're building and we're building. And we're pretty happy about it. So I appreciate you. This life goes by in a blink. Enjoy it. All right. All right. Hey, yo. Shout out to my crew, the Theory team. The team, okay? Starting with my incredible editor, Caroline Kawash, to my producer, Michael Epstein, to the incredible design skills of Cesar Arvello, to the other designer / web / everything, Justin Tordella. Go look them up. Go follow them. Go thank them. They're an incredible team, and I wouldn't be even remotely able to do a second of this without them. So shout out to the entire Theory team. Or as we say in New York, big up. Incredible people, incredible humans, and I'm fortunate and proud to have them.